Hi, thank you for listening to the presentation about risk analysis. This part of the presentation, I will be talking about post-project evaluation. It is key when you're at the end of your project to do a post-project evaluation. In today's presentation, you will be learning a 10-step process on creating a successful post-project evaluation, gaining knowledge of the definition and process of a post-project evaluation, learning the 3 dimensions for determining a project's success during the post-project evaluation phase. Now I will be presenting you with a video on understanding project management evaluation.
In this video, we're going to be looking at the idea of project evaluation and why that's an important part of project management. So when you're evaluating your project, you need to think about, why is evaluation important? Why is this something that we might do? Why would we spend time undertaking this? Really, evaluation allows you to learn from the successes or the shortcomings of the project that you've been working on. It allows you to develop skills. So that might be for different team members, for project management, or even developing new systems for your organization. It allows you to celebrate successes and to talk about things that still need to be improved. So this contributes to building a good working relationship between you, your team, and also the stakeholders that are involved in the project that you've been running. What evaluation might also do is identify the need for further project work in the same or a related area. So your project and the way it's been run and what has happened might show that there's actually quite a lot of need for this to happen again. There are a number of different ways that you could evaluate your project. These will include things like collecting information on the achievements and comparing it with your initial objectives for the project. It'll be things like feedback from stakeholders and from the project team members. Asking the questions, what went well, what could have been done better, where were there differences between the actions that you undertook and the plan that you had, and why those things happened. You can also employ an independent evaluator to take on this part of your project, so they would offer you an outside eye on what you're doing. When you're undertaking evaluation of your project, you might also want to evaluate the performance of individual team members. And this might be part of a wider kind of career development program, or it might be part of your organization's professional development reviews and things that might already be happening in terms of monitoring individuals' development. So you'll be asking questions like, how well did individuals carry out their role? What were their achievements and what were the areas for improvement? What skills and knowledge have they gained? And what development needs are identified? So what things could somebody benefit from training in or more experience of, or possibly being mentored by somebody else to give that kind of skills and knowledge transfer? Whenever you're doing this type of evaluation, this information will always be confidential. So you're not going to be releasing to other people this type of performance evaluation. You might, however, want to share your findings more widely in a report. So this can be useful for people outside of the project team because you're sharing what activities went on, what lessons have been learned. It can allow you to report back to funders or stakeholders or other people in a larger organization, just to really keep them up to date with what had happened with the project. And it allows you to document the process of planning and running a project of this type, including the potential risks, issues, and solutions. So you'll be approaching writing a report like this at the end of your project when it's all finished. So this would allow you to really set down in writing what the important elements of this project were and what you had learned from this experience. So when you're structuring your reports, you'll want to use quite a systematic way of going through your evaluation. You'll start by stating the initial project aims. So the aims that you developed around your proposal for the project. You'll want to quantify and evaluate the achievements of the project against those aims. So you'll use those as markers, and you'll find ways to show, to demonstrate whether you have achieved those aims or not, or to what level you've achieved them. You'll want to compare the plans that you laid down with what happened, and also to analyze data as you go through your reports on the quality of the project outcomes and the deliverables against agreed quality standards. So against best practice in your organization or in your field, and against standards that you had laid out in that project proposal. Then you'll come to the point in your report that is about the final financial accounting. So you'll have your initial proposed budget, but also the final budget that you used for your project, and an explanation of any of the differences there, anything that varies from the initial plan to the fully completed project. You'll want to be identifying practices that worked well and those that did not work well. So there'll be particular ways of doing things, maybe that you were trying out for the first time, and you want to really evaluate those and see if those would be worth repeating. This can lead you to developing a section about lessons that were learned. So these are things that you will share with other people outside of the project team to help them in future projects. So there'll be things that might apply more widely than just the situation that you were working in. And you might also want to suggest models for best practice and for further developments or applications of your findings. So these are things that either you or other people could put into action in projects of a similar type or a similar scope, or maybe in a similar area of practice.
Now that you've seen the video, I hope you have a better understanding of post-project evaluation. What is a post-project evaluation? A post-project evaluation is a review that a team does on their project before they are able to start on a new project. A post-project evaluation gives the team time to process what went well and understand why those aspects of the project went well. It is also a time when the team reflects on certain aspects that didn't go well and come up with strategies to avoid those negative aspects in future projects. This evaluation is an opportunity for teams to learn. Why is post-project evaluation important? Post-project evaluations are important because it allows board members to reflect on the strengths and weaknesses of the project. From the strengths of the project, board members can implement those strengths into future projects. The weaknesses that are found in the project can be ones that board members try to avoid for future projects. In my next 2 slides, I will be discussing a 10-step process you should be following to create a successful post-project evaluation. Step 1, determining what were the challenges of the project. Project managers should conduct a 5 to 10-minute survey for their team, asking specific questions on ways the team could have done better on the project. Step 2, board members should be reviewing the original schedule that was made at the beginning of the project. It is helpful to review this schedule because it will help the team to improve on estimating schedule times for future projects. Step 3, reviewing the budget estimates for the cost work schedule compared Step 3, reviewing the budget estimates for the cost work scheduled compared to how much the budget actually cost. Step 4, reviewing of estimated risk compared to the actual risk that may have taken place during your project. A few questions that can be asked is, did events take place on the project that were unforeseen? What cues existed that may have allowed the team to predict these events? Was the project contingency sufficient to cover unforeseen risks? And step 5, each supplier and vendors that were a part of your project should be reviewed to determine if they should still be included in the list of qualified suppliers or vendors. Step 6, have the senior manager of your team interview the client to develop feedback on the project team performance. This step gives the client the opportunity to express satisfaction and identify areas in which the project needs improvement on. Step 7, after you've compiled all of your information, the results of the post-project evaluations are summarized in reports. These reports can be used for internal and external use as future references. Step 8, a general report of the project is created for the stakeholders of the project. This report includes original goals, objectives, and statements of the project, as well as how the project met those goals and objectives. Step 9, a report should be created from your team and sent to board members on all the information provided from the stakeholders. The report identifies practices and processes that could be improved or lessons that were learned that could be useful on future projects. Step 10, after every post-project evaluation, charter documents, scope statements, original budget, change documents, DPCI ratings, manager summary, and final DPCI rating documents should be stored either electronically or by paper. And have a celebration to mark the end of a project. Having a celebration is an opportunity to improve client satisfaction and team member satisfaction. Now that you understand the process of creating a post-project evaluation, I will be presenting you with a 4-minute video on how to create effective customer service questions.
As a rule of thumb, if a word has more than 6 to 7 letters, there is probably a more easy to understand word to replace it. Tammy, Market Research Analyst at Campaign Creators here. And today I want to talk to you about writing successful customer survey questions. Now, customer surveys can be used to help you improve a product or service, measure customer satisfaction, improve your customer retention, or gain insights to help you make smart business decisions. And while it may seem simple, there is an art and science to question writing. To start, the goal of writing any survey question should be for any potential respondent to interpret that question in the same way. And in order to do that, you must continually put yourself in the shoes of your potential respondent, in this case, your customer. Now, rules and principles for anything, no matter how well-intentioned, cannot be absolute. With that bit of warning, though, I and several people before me have found these guiding principles extremely useful in writing successful survey questions. Principle number 1, choose simple over specialized words. As a rule of thumb, if a word has more than 6 to 7 letters, there is probably a more easy to understand word to replace it. Principle number 2, use as few words as possible to pose the question. The problem with long questions is that people tend to skip over your important words, so make sure that anything that's unimportant isn't included. Principle number 3, use complete sentences to ask questions. For example, instead of saying number of products purchased, ask how many products did you purchase? Principle 4, avoid vague qualifiers when a more precise estimate can be obtained. For example, in question 1, enormous variation can exist in what respondents mean by these answer choices. Now, a better option would be the response categories in version 2. Principle 5, avoid specificity that prevents your respondent from having a ready-made answer. For example, instead of just expecting our respondent to answer question 1 and start calculating all the books they read in this last year, why don't we give them some response options to help them out? Principle 6, use equal equal numbers of positive and negative response options. This helps to eliminate biasing your respondent. For example, in question 1, a person looking at this is automatically going to assume that somewhat satisfied is in the middle of the scale, whereas in question 2, satisfied or dissatisfied is the middle option, and that is in fact the middle of the scale. Principle 7. Distinguish between undecided and neutral by placing an undecided option at the end of the scale. Principle 8. State both sides of the response scale in your question. For example, instead of saying, how satisfied were you with the quality of the product, be sure to say, how satisfied or dissatisfied were you with the quality of the product. It may seem funny or unnatural to do this, but it helps avoid biasing your customer in one direction over the other. Principle 9. Develop answer categories that are mutually exclusive. I see this one violated all the time. For example, how do I answer this question if my friend shared a Facebook ad on my social media account, and that's how I found out about the company? Principle 10. Avoid asking respondents to say yes in order to mean no. For example, instead of saying, do you favor or oppose not allowing companies to add you to email lists without your explicit permission, you should say, do you favor or oppose allowing companies to add you to email lists without your explicit permission? And the last principle, number 11, avoid asking double-barreled questions. This is asking 2 questions within one. Instead of saying, were you satisfied with the product and its packaging, you should be asking this in 2 questions. I hope you found these principles useful, but remember, question writing is not performed in a vacuum. Constantly ask yourself, what would my customer be thinking, and evaluate it from their perspective. This has been Tammy from Campaign Creators signing off. Thanks for nerding out with me.
3 dimensions for determining a project success during the post-project evaluation phase. Project management dimension. How closely did the project achieve the original objectives as identified in the project charter or project business case? Did the project meet the specified product specifications, budget, schedule, scope? Project dimension. How well does the product meet the functional and business objectives that were used to establish the project charter and business case? Stakeholder satisfaction dimension. What level of satisfaction or dissatisfaction, accomplishment, enjoyment, pleasure, anger, conflict, frustration, exists in each of the project stakeholders, which can be either positive or negative stakeholder? Let's review what we learned today. The purpose of a post-project evaluation is to learn from the experience and improve future decisions. All documents created are stored and saved. Using the 3 dimensions is helpful in determining the success of a project. The last 2 tasks are to take a quiz on this part of the presentation, and I will be handing over the presentation to my colleague Hajarat, who will conclude this presentation. Before moving to the conclusion of the course, minimize this video and click on the button at the right corner of the web page labeled Quiz to proceed to test your knowledge on post-project evaluation.